Welcome back to the news of the week. We're back every single Friday to bring you all of the automotive news updates from the week. But before we get into things, before we talk about stuff like the Verna launch, the new Ferrari Roma Spider, the Brezza CNG, we've also got a couple of unveils from Mercedes-Benz. Before we get into all of that, I have a very important question to ask Sirish. What was it like shooting on the INS Vikrant?
Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in to the Evo news of the week and the shoot at the flight deck of the INS Vikrant. We've put together some pretty awesome stories, if I might say so myself. But getting these Mahindra SUVs on the flight deck of the INS Vikrant is taking it to a whole another level. The night before, when we were loading the cars on the deck, the first time I got onto the deck, looking at the expanse of that runway, which is a runway, and I was like, oh my God, I've never been so overawed. And the sheer privilege of being on India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, a shining example of India's technological prowess. India is one of only 6 countries in the world that has the capability to build aircraft carriers over 40,000 tons. You just look at that, the technology that has gone into it. It's 76% local. All the steels are local. A lot of the systems are local. So most of it done here in India, built at the Cochin shipyard. That's where we shot it also. I still thinking about it, I get goosebumps.
Did you drive on the flight deck?
I drove on the flight deck. I drove that XUV 700 and the 300 and the Scorpio N on the flight deck of the INS Vikrant. We had unprecedented access. We interviewed the naval officers, the women officers, the flight captain. I had tea with the commanding officer in the captain's quarters. I just can't believe that we put all that together.
And it wasn't just the ship. They got the planes out. They got the choppers out.
We saw actual flight movement on the deck of the INS Vikrant. How cool is that? We were standing there. We were told, take out your watch, take out your hats, because obviously there's a lot of wind that when the helicopters are taking off. And we saw the choppers taking off from the deck. It's unreal. And all of this is just a precursor for the epic drive that we are going to be undertaking. So it is the Shamna Varuna drive, where we start off in Kolkata. In fact, we start off this Sunday. We start off in Kolkata, drive all the way along the coast down to Kanyakumari, and then back up the west coast and end in Gujarat. Approximately 7,500 kilometers, of which the first kilometer, the ceremonial first kilometer, was done on the flight deck of the INS Vikrant.
Unreal.
And along the drive, we'll be going to approximately 70 ports, forts, places of maritime interest, both historic as well as current, and showcase how the Navy gives you a life of adventure and how the Navy gives you attractive career options. As an officer of the Indian Navy, you are working on the INS Vikrant. You get to see the world. The opportunities are just incredible. And that's what we're doing. The Navy is doing this outreach program to highlight and educate youngsters about the Indian Navy, what the Navy does, and also do a lot of cleanup. So there will be a lot of beach cleanup activities and create awareness about marine pollution and how that is affecting our coast. So it's a very nice drive, very interesting drive. The access that we'll be getting is also going to be unprecedented. We'll be at INS Chilka at the first passing out parade of the Agniveers. So we will be witnessing that. And Evo India, our entire crew, is going to be on that entire drive approximately 1 month, bringing you updates every single day. So watch out for the Twitter handles of the Indian Navy, the Mahindra handles, and of course Evo India, where a lot of content will be put out.
We also did another drive with the Navy, with Jeep India, called She Is Unstoppable, to celebrate Women's Day.
Yes.
And that's in this issue of the magazine.
Yep. So with the Navy, we had a fleet of Meridian and Compass SUVs. We also had the Grand Cherokee and the Wrangler Rubicon. We did that drive starting off from the National War Memorial in Delhi, went all the way to the Longewala War Memorial, after Jaisalmer back to Delhi. And that was driven by women officers of the Indian Navy and also members of the Navy Welfare and Wellness Association, the NAWA. And that was another outreach program. There, the plan was to showcase how the Navy offers career opportunities to women. veterans were also involved in that, went to a lot of schools, orphanages, showcased how a career in the Navy is an attractive proposition. So that was the first one that we did. Again, we got crazy access. We went to the Naval Dockyard in Mumbai. We shot with the INS Mormugao, the newest warship in the Indian Navy. And this is just taking it up a notch. So that story, She is Unstoppable, is there in the latest issue of Evo India, which is on stands. It has been on stands for a week now. And we have to talk about the cover. What do you guys think about the cover?
I mean, y'all voted for it, so y'all better like it.
So this was something different that we did.
Yeah.
We've never asked you for your opinion on the covers before we go into print. And come to
usually
think of it, that's crazy.
the covers are very secretive. You know, you try to keep it close to your chest,
Yes.
don't let it out, and then you have one big reveal. But we said, you know what? Everyone's going to see the cover at some point anyway, so might as well get the community involved. We couldn't decide which the best cover was. I think that was the reason why we did this.
Yeah, so we had 3 covers. All 3 looked awesome,
Yeah.
and the Evo India office was split equally between all 3. So we said, why don't we bring you readers into the mix and ask you what you like?
And I think these guys were also split almost evenly.
Yes, but I think 43%
Yeah.
of the votes or something like that went to this one,
Yeah.
Ice Age,
I mean,
and that's what we went with.
yeah.
So our photographer, Rohit, he wanted the other one. He said that was a little bit more dramatic, and everybody had their opinion, which is
Correct.
great. But you guys voted for this, and that's the cover that you get. The
Yeah.
Ferrari Purosangue sideways on a snow-covered
Unbelievable.
alpine pass. Oh man, and it's a beautiful story. We have, in fact, tons of awesome stories in this issue. So you should check it out. It is on stands, and also you can buy it online, evoindia.com/magazine, and you can pick up the magazine. You also get cool merchandise when you subscribe to the magazine. So go check that out. And now, with that out of the way, we should dive into the news.
Yeah, so the biggest news of the week has obviously been the launch of the Verna. Now, we've already discussed a fair bit of it on the News of the Week segment already, but that was mostly from the teasers. Now we have the whole spec and we have the prices.
And we have the whole reveal of the car.
Yes, the whole unveil of the car. It looks good. I still think it looks great.
I don't know. I think it looks a bit too radical. But I think that's good because styling has to create opinions.
Yeah.
And this will definitely form opinions. People will talk about it. That will also build up the word of mouth. So I think it is good
Yeah.
in terms of creating buzz around it. In terms of sheer outright styling, I don't know. I need to look at it in the metal. But
Not too far
Hyundai
away.
are getting the job done in terms of making us all talk about it.
Absolutely.
And that is the most important thing in terms of styling.
And something that caught my eye at the launch event was the 0 to 100 time.
Yeah, 8.1 seconds.
I was like, what? That's really, really quick.
So now we got to look back, and is this the Slavia / Virtus effect where they got the 1.5 turbo petrol engines?
Yeah.
They talked about performance,
Yeah.
and now Hyundai is going and matching and beating them in terms of
Yeah.
performance. It's so exciting for the Indian automotive industry that now manufacturers are pushing performance.
Yeah.
0 to 100 in under 10 seconds used to be a very big deal.
And these are mass market cars.
And now a mass market car doing 0 to 100 in 8.1 seconds. I'm sure if somebody is listening to this or watching this in, say, Europe or in North America, will say 0 to 100 in 8.1, not such a big deal.
Yeah, one
But
of the other
in
cars
Indian-
we're talking about now does 0 to 100 in 1 point something seconds.
Yes. So, but in the Indian context, for a mass market car, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is a fast car, and they are talking about performance. In fact, their tagline is ferocious and fantastic, or ferocious and something.
That's just stuff that goes in from one ear and comes out of the other ear for me.
But they are focusing on performance.
Yeah.
The 1.5 turbo engine, it makes some 158 bhp.
Mm.
So that gets the DCT gearbox and also gets the manual gearbox.
Okay.
So you have the turbo petrol engine with a manual gearbox.
Yeah.
So this should be fun to drive. I hope they've tightened up the suspension, make it handle like a Slavia / Virtus.
Yeah.
You got to remember that the Slavia and Virtus, they've got a very torsionally rigid body. So it can do great ride as well as great handling. I hope the Verna can match the dynamic benchmarks. In fact, we will be driving it very soon. The embargo lifts and we will have the full story and the video on this channel and on our website. So you should check that out. But I think this is awesome for the Indian automotive industry. What Hyundai have done is they've junked their old 1 liter 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, which was there in the earlier Verna. They've gone with the 1.5. So full on.
It's a big step up.
Yeah, full on.
Yeah.
No half measures. You also have a 1.5 naturally aspirated petrol, which obviously will be the meat of the market.
Yes, that'll bring in the numbers for them.
Sure, and that does not get disc brakes at the rear.
Yeah.
So it is also stripped down in terms of a bit of the specs, but all variants get 6 airbags as standard,
Yeah.
which is again a great move. Now we need to see Hyundai voluntarily sending their cars to global NCAP and getting those crash safety ratings out and also highlighting that. That is the next step. Hyundai have done everything else.
Yeah.
They have catered to us enthusiasts. They've given us performance.
Yeah.
The turbo variant, I think, is awesome
Yeah.
for the Indian automotive industry. Now, let's see the safety also.
And speaking of safety, they've got ADAS into it. I think it's the first car in its segment which gets ADAS.
Great point
And
you've made. Yes, I missed out on that.
I drove the expressway recently, and from the second toll, when you go down the ghat, till the end of the expressway, I did nothing. I just put the ADAS on. I put on automated, the adaptive cruise controller, 100 kilometers an hour. Traffic was light, so I wasn't getting slowed down by too many trucks. This was in the Hyundai Tucson. I put the steering assist on, and I just sat back and I chilled. You know, I mean, you've got to keep your hands on the wheel. You've got to keep your wits about you, but you don't have to do much. The car speeds up, slows down, stays in its lane, does everything for you. I put almost zero inputs in between, I think it was 20 or 30 kilometers or something like that.
That's excellent. That's an excellent point, because now the Mumbai-Pune Expressway, for instance, is full of speed cameras.
Yeah.
And where there are no fixed cameras, there are also mobile cameras. So you will get jammed if you try and go fast. So, and in any case, even if you go fast, you will save maybe 5-10 minutes.
Correct.
You're not going to save that much time either. So sticking at cruise control, 100 kilometers per hour, and this takes care of you. Now, a lot of these new expressways are coming up around the country.
Yeah.
So the roads in our city are going to the dogs, but the highways, the expressways are coming up are really good. The Samruddhi Mahamarg, that apparently is really nice. We will be driving that very soon. So we will do a story on that. The Trans-Haryana Expressway, the new Bangalore-Mysore Expressway. Lot of these new roads coming. ADAS will definitely be useful over there.
For sure. And
My only thing is that these ADAS cars, I think they should just have one proper switch where you can just tap it and switch it off. So in the city, these things become a bit of a hazard.
that's going to have to be an India-centric innovation, because abroad, you don't need to, first of all.
True, but
And-
why can't we do it in India?
Yeah.
Mahindra, what they do with the XUV 700, for instance, is that when you switch it off, it stays off. Even when you restart the car, it goes off.
This is a question though. Does switching off your ADAS have implications for insurance claims when you get into an accident?
Very good point.
Yeah.
That's something I don't think we still have, because these are still early days for ADAS equipped cars in the country. But I'm sure the insurance agencies are also looking at that, and that could be something that we should keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Interesting point, Aatish.
Yeah. Okay. And the last thing about the Verna, and probably the most important thing, is the prices. I think pricing is really good.
Yep.
If you look at the top end, you're looking at the 1.5 DCT, ADAS, everything. It's still a lakh cheaper than the Slavia and the Virtus.
Yep. So it undercuts the Slavia and
Yeah.
Virtus with ADAS, so with more features. So that is also aggressive.
Yeah.
And
At the entry point also, it's a little cheaper than that.
yep. So Volkswagen and Skoda will have to counter that.
Yeah.
They will have to do some special edition, something. In fact, I think that both Skoda and Volkswagen need to really build on that sportiness aspect of their cars. Their cars are sporty. They are fun to drive. But they needs to have like a sporty variant, like a GT TSI, which they have, but taken to the next step, like a Monte Carlo edition.
Like an
should
N-line
be-
with a little
yeah,
bit
like
of
exactly. So the Monte Carlo edition should just not be additional paint.
Exactly.
It should have something more.
Exactly.
And that will build on the reputation, because they have the cars, but they're not
Yeah.
capitalizing enough on
A
it.
little bit of suspension tweaks. And we've said this from
Yes.
day one. The day we drove the cars, we said, you know what? There should be an edition where it's lowered a little bit, a little
Yes.
stiffer suspension, a
A
little tighter
bigger,
steering.
bigger wheels, 17-inch wheels.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I hope they do it.
I hope this is the spark.
The impetus.
Yes, the impetus that pushes them to do it, and it'll be great for us enthusiasts. The Virtus, they already have an ITC, an Indian touring car version of it, that is lowered, bigger wheels. That looks
Yeah.
superb. It looks really good. So just imagine a properly sporty, so not just the GT TSI, but GT TSI Plus.
Yeah,
That will just be so cool, right?
absolutely. Now, at the other end of the non-sporty end of the segment, there's the Maruti Suzuki Brezza CNG.
Okay. What are we talking about over there?
Prices out.
Okay.
So let me just get the prices out for you.
So in terms of CNG,
Yeah.
now you're seeing far more manufacturers jumping on the CNG bandwagon. And I think that's good because it obviously is a cleaner fuel than petrol or diesel. Maruti obviously doesn't have diesel, so they have to have an alternate fuel, and CNG is their alternate fuel strategy. Hybrids also. So that is being worked on. The only problem is right now our cities don't have enough in terms of infrastructure to cater to all the CNG cars. So you'll be standing in a line with all the Olas and Ubers. So that is a bit of a headache.
Yeah.
But I believe that the number of CNG stations are growing
And
quickly,
there's interest
rapidly,
around it. I know people who have come to me and said, hey, should I get a CNG car?
because of the running costs.
Yeah.
The running costs
And-
are attractive.
And the fact that you're getting it from the factory, you're not doing it in an aftermarket. There's safety involved. There's enough R&D that's gone
Yes.
into it to make it like a proper longevity, guarantee all of that bit.
Yep.
So I think Maruti is doing something right over there.
Definitely.
just it's
Obviously,
not-
and it's catering to the
Yeah.
market also. There is a market for the CNG vehicles. So even Tata Motors is doing it. A lot of manufacturers are doing it. So there is a definite market for it. And it's good that we have this alternate fuel strategy.
Absolutely.
Only thing is we need more pumps.
Yeah. I'll just touch upon the prices quickly. Starts at rupees 9.14 lakhs, going up to rupees 12.05 lakhs. So, I mean, that's on par for the course, I guess,
Yes. Yeah.
Now, the next car we're talking about is something ridiculous. Did you see the trailers for the Dodge SRT Demon 170?
I've always said that America, it's a
Yeah.
petrol head market.
Absolutely.
Where else in the world will a manufacturer do a factory drag racing special? And that is the Dodge Demon SRT Last Call. What's the full name?
Good question. Dodge Challenger SRT Demon 170.
Last Call.
Last call.
This is the last call, the seventh and final of the last call editions.
Yeah.
So it's a factory drag race special. Quarter
But you-
mile
you know-
in
you know what
8.1 seconds.
You know what I was thinking? Europe has racetracks.
Mm,
Europe also has GT3 RSs.
mm.
America has drag strips. This is the GT3 RS of the drag strip. It is like homologation borderline drag car.
Yeah, so I read somewhere that the NHRA, which is the
Yeah.
agency that monitors drag racing and racing in the States, has actually banned it or something because it does a sub 9-second quarter mile run and it does not have a full cage and a parachute. It's unreal. There was that shot of that coming onto the helicopter,
Yeah.
dropping down on the drag strip.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah, that was-
when it does the launch, it really does a wheelie.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And this is a
stock
factory car.
This is a stock car.
A factory car with drag slicks on it, with staggered tires, and you can see it. The rear tire is humongous, 315 or something like that, and the front tire is narrow.
Yeah.
Both are drag slicks. It's completely reworked. So the rear suspension is reworked.
Yeah.
It's got some patent pending for some torque delivering some mechanism which is used in drag racing, and now it's on a production car. Everything has been reworked. The engine has been completely reworked,
Absolutely.
strengthened. It runs on an ethanol blend
Yeah, E10.
for more power. And what does it do? What is the
So
quarter mile time?
I'll just get the numbers out quickly. 0 to 60 miles an hour, the Americans measure, which is around 96 kilometers an hour. It does it in 1.66 seconds.
1.6 seconds to 100 kmph.
Yeah. and
And we are getting excited
it has the
about
highest G-force acceleration of any production car at 2.004 Gs.
2 Gs.
Acceleration. That's crazy. Max power is 900 horsepower, 1098 Nm of torque. The quarter mile is an NHRA certified 8.91 seconds.
Yep. So 8.91 seconds quarter mile run.
That's crazy. And it does it at 243 kilometers an hour. And so there's upgrades to the supercharger, there's upgrades to the engine, to the pistons, to basically the whole engine. I guess they've had to rework to put out that sort of performance from it. The prop shaft is reworked. The tires, 315 section, you're talking about the fat rear tires, 315 section tires. There's a drag mode suspension.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's a drag race car. Yeah. Is there also an eco mode? So that's obviously it's not going to come to India.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no India relevance. But it's just so cool to look at these super hot cars. So you have these track spec cars like the GT3 RS, and you have these drag race cars. Like
And the ban, you know why the ban exists? I just read it off. It's a ban because it doesn't have a cage and it doesn't have a parachute.
Yes, yeah.
It's crazy. I mean,
so that's some cool cars that
Yeah.
are being launched globally.
and something that we will probably see at some point is the Ferrari Roma Spider.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Now, my question is, isn't the Portofino the convertible Roma?
That's a good question.
So, the Portofino is the hardtop convertible.
But this is a fabric top.
Yes, but the Portofino is the convertible Roma.
Yeah.
And now you have the Roma convertible.
Be careful, Ferrari will ban you for saying that their cars are the same. Huh?
But it is the same. We've driven it. We know about it. We know the specs. Of course, the styling is a little different.
Yeah.
But so now you have the Portofino, which is the convertible Roma, and you have the Roma Spider, which is the convertible Roma. So I guess now that Ferrari is a publicly listed company, they have to do newer models, increase their market share, increase their numbers, increase their profitability.
But to be fair, the Roma is a great car. You've driven it.
It's a beautiful looking car.
Not just looking, but to drive as well. It's
of course, but
it's entry level Ferrari, but entry level Ferrari is still Ferrari.
Of course. So it is lovely. And like I said, it is a beautiful looking car. It looks better than the Portofino, if you ask me.
I agree.
Significantly better.
Yeah.
So, and the Spider is also really beautiful.
Yeah.
So this is something that's selling on styling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, okay. Well, I'm sure it will have demand. But you've read about the demand for the Purosangue? It's through the roof.
Yeah.
I've been talking to the two importers in India, and they are like, no,
don't tell me sold out.
They've got customers who want to put down money, but Ferrari are selecting customers because there's such mad demand for it.
Yeah.
And the pricing, India prices have not yet been announced, but the only thing more expensive than the Purosangue is the SF90.
Correct.
So this is frightfully expensive.
And it's world over. It's not just because India has low allocations.
It's world over.
It's like this. I was listening to a podcast in the UK and they were saying the same thing. They said dealers have stopped accepting bookings because the wait times are now 2 years.
Yeah, it's just insane. And I'm sure a lot of it is because buying a Purosangue will also put you at the front of the queue when the next special edition Ferrari is launched. And it's just insane to see that kind of demand, to see that kind of wealth that is also there, and the amount of money that's being splashed out on these exotic cars.
It's unreal.
It's crazy.
But to be fair, at least again, this is all second-hand information that I gathered from the podcast. They said that the Purosangue won't be more than 20% of Ferrari volumes at the moment, at least. So it's not going to be like what the Cayenne is.
So that's why you have the Roma Spider.
Yeah, correct.
Because if the Purosangue has to be 20% of volumes and the volumes have to grow, that means the sports cars also need to have a larger market.
Absolutely.
And that's why you need more models and more variants on it. So I guess, that these guys are smart. They know their strategy. They know their business. So obviously, hats off to them. And hats off for sticking with the V12 in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Giving the V12 another lease of life until eventually legislation is going to ban it.
Yeah. And then it'll probably
at least
hybridize.
It's still there,
Yeah. I mean, for Lamborghini's hybridized their V12, so it's only, I guess Ferrari's going to have to do it too.
Yep.
But now let's talk about stuff which is a little more relevant to us. The GLA and the GLB have been given a facelift.
Okay, so the pictures are up there right now, and for the life of me, I cannot see how much is different.
Yeah,
there's
minor differences,
minor changes, but I can't see what's different.
It's a typical facelift, so you've got small tweaks on the outside.
Actually, facelifts are a little bit more. You should be able to make out like this is a facelift. Now you have to squint and see the details.
Yeah, that's true. But so GLA, GLB updated, new face apparently, new interiors apparently.
New interiors also, there are two sizes of the screen, 7-inch and 10.25. India will obviously get the 10.25 because in India, Mercedes makes no base models. So everything is fully loaded. So it'll still have the 10.25 inch screens, the twin screens. So maybe the
But the engines
petrol
are now-
engine, so
Yeah.
maybe the petrol engine will get the EQ boost
Yeah.
and give it a boost of power.
Yeah.
We've said that the petrol engines, that 1.3 turbo petrol, is
Needed.
not really the strong point of the car.
Yeah.
It's a little underpowered, and you have to really cane the engine to get it moving. So maybe that gets a little more power, and that honestly will be the only thing that will really excite us about the facelift. Of course, the AMGs also
Yeah.
will get the similar facelift.
They've already got it.
They've already got it.
Yeah.
Yep. And AMGs always excite us. So
Yeah.
bring it on.
Absolutely. Now, before we end today's segment, there's one more piece of news. Kawasaki has announced a new Eliminator, and that's a familiar name for us here in India.
Yep, 22 years ago, Bajaj launched the Kawasaki Bajaj Eliminator.
Yeah.
Now, those days, we didn't really have a cruiser. There was a Bullet, but the Bullet wasn't a cruiser. I don't even think the Thunderbird was out by then. There was the Lightning. And this was India's first proper cruiser with the kicked out front forks, the first one with a disc brake. Disc brakes were a huge novelty in those days. It had the 175cc engine. So I think it was one of the fastest motorcycles that you could buy. Very smooth compared to the Bullets. The 350 was crude, to say the least.
Yeah.
The 175 was smooth, the proper Japanese single-cylinder engine. It had quality, it had refinement, it had speed, it had handling. The disc brakes, we actually had to adapt our minds to how to use the disc brake, because obviously no ABS, and there were a lot of instances of people dropping the bike because the front end would wash out. So we had to know how to use the disc brake on that. But I think it was a superb bike. In fact, at the launch, Kawasaki, they also used a bit of snippets from my road test that I wrote for Overdrive, because obviously we wrote it like in 8-year-olds. That was a brilliant motorcycle. And now it's great to see that name come back. Obviously, it's not been launched in India. It's only a Japanese market bike. But I'm sure, and at least it is sensible, that Kawasaki brings that here to India, because the name is familiar. A lot of people know about that. Cruisers do sell in India, obviously. And I think that will be a far better strategy than something like that W175 that they launched recently.
Yeah.
Forgive me for saying this, but I think that's unbelievable how ancient that looks. I don't think anybody wants something like that. You want retro, you want neo-retro, but something like that, it just looks... it looks like one of the bikes that we hated in those days. I just don't see the appeal of the styling of that thing. What is it made to look like? A cheap bike of the 80s? It's... this is not something that India needs. This is not something that our roads need. And I don't think it will sell. It will... No, clearly they aren't doing their homework. What I do hear is that they are doing... at least they're evaluating locally making the parallel twin engine. And if they do that, that engine can go in the Eliminator, for instance, in the next lot of Ninjas. Those are the bikes that Kawasaki should be making. I used to own a Kawasaki. I owned a 14R.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
I own a Kawasaki Ninja ZX 14R, the fastest bike in the world.
Yeah.
So I am a Kawasaki fanboy. And as a Kawasaki fanboy, something like the W175, it reduces the appeal of the brand so much. It's just unbelievable how anybody could make anything like that. Like, they aren't listening to anybody out here in India. But anyway, that's
Sirish
another
has
rant.
very strong opinions about this.
Yeah, that's another rant altogether. But yeah, Eliminator, hopefully it comes to India. Hopefully they wake up and smell the coffee.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. That's been us for the news of the week this week. We will be back next week, hopefully in the studio, bringing you all of the news updates from the following week. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for watching.